Hi, so we're going to go ahead and start Jupyter Notebook here. So we're in our data science workbench and we're going to click Jupyter Notebook. And in this video, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about conditionals. So these are if statements. They're the things that make if statements and loops possible. So let's go ahead and paste in the link, which is in the comments below or the in the lesson you're using. Okay, so we've imported our Jupyter Notebook, and here it is. So Python uses Boolean variables to evaluate conditions. The Boolean value, true or false, Boolean values true and false are returned when an expression is compared or evaluated. Notice that variable assignment is done using a single equal sign. Okay, whereas comparison between two variables is done using the double equals operator. So when we use a single equals, right, we're saying, oh, A is equal to 2, or in this case, X is equal to 2, okay? We use a double equals, we're asking a question, is X equal to 2? Okay, and the answer comes back true or false, okay? So here we go. So we're going to go ahead and run this. Shift-Enter to run the square with code in it, to run the code block there. Okay, so we set X equal to 2, and then we print, and we get this condition, right? X, we ask the question, is X equal to 2? It comes back as true or false, okay? So this expression right here is actually equivalent to the value it returns. It's equivalent to true. Okay, so if we ask, is X equal to 2? It's equivalent to the value true, okay? And that's why it prints out true. X is equal to 3, it prints out false. X is less than 3, it prints out true. Okay, so we can see this here. Okay, now we have some Boolean operators. Okay, so we already talked about one of those. We talked about the double equal sign. So here we have name equals John, right? The string John, and we have age equals 23. So age is going to be an integer. Okay, so then we ask this question. So if name is equal to John, which is true, right? Because we set name equal to John, and age is equal to 23. So this expression right here is equivalent to true also, because we already said it's 23. Then, so if this is true, right, and this is true, so both things have to be true for this whole thing to be true. Okay, so now something to remember about conditions, no matter how complicated or how long, they always boil down to true or false. So whatever it is between this if statement and this colon, no matter how long it is, it always comes down to true or false. Okay? And if this expression evaluates to true, then this line executes. The block of code associated with the if statement executes. Now this could be multiple lines. In this case, it's just one. But if the condition is true, that's this part right here is true, then the code inside the ifs code block will execute. If it's false, it just skips that code and goes on to the next line. So in this case, if it was false, it would skip this line, the code block for the if, and just go on to the next line and start executing. Okay, so now we have if name equals John or name equals Rick. Okay, so now in this case, name equals Rick, that's going to return a what? That's going to return false, right? Name equals John is going to return true. But in this case, we have an or, right? So now we only have to have one thing that is true. So this can be true, or this can be true. So the subcondition, right? This subcondition, and this or this subcondition, either one can be true, and then the whole thing is true. So in ands, everything has to be true for it to be true, for the whole condition to be true. With the ors, only one thing has to be true for the condition to be true. And finally, we're going to print your name as either John or Rick, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and... Okay, so both of the if blocks were executed, right? Let's go ahead and change this a little bit. If this was Jeff, whoops. If this was Jeff or Rick. In this case, do you see right here? This was skipped, right? Because both of the conditions were now false, which made both subconditions were false, which made the whole ifs condition false. The next thing we're going to look at is the in operator. Okay, it's very, very useful. So if we have the name is equal to John, okay, then we're asking if name in, and then we have this list, right? Now, in general, a lot of times you won't see the list, right? So let's say we have name and names is our list, right? Okay. Let's say that we ask, is name in names our list? Okay. See that? Okay. Okay, and it was, right? So John was in the list John, the list containing list names containing John and Rick. So if John is in the list that says John, Rick, okay, then we execute this code, and it was true, so we execute the code. If this was Sally, okay, notice that print is not, there's nothing printed, right? Because this condition was false, right? Because Sally was not in the list, right? So the if statement's code block was skipped. Okay, let's go and reset it. Okay, Python uses indentation to define code blocks instead of brackets. Okay, so if you ever program in JavaScript or Java or C or any of these languages, usually you see a lot of curly braces, right? Or brackets, okay? And not usually square brackets, but usually code blocks are inside brackets. Python uses indentation. Now, it makes for cleaner looking code, to be sure, but it also is sometimes a little bit hard to see, right? It's hard to see whether something is 3 spaces or 4 spaces, right? But if you notice, this is the skeleton of the statement, right? So we have if, elif, else, right? So in this case, we do if, we get the condition right here, then we do something else, do something else. Notice that then the elif is indented, right? So the code block is indented after the if. The elif is then unindented. Now, this can come in a lot of different forms. We can have any number of elif statements here, right? So elif, we can do elif, 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 else. We don't have to have an else. We can do if, elif, 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 right, with no else. Okay, the only thing that we must have is this first if, okay? Then we can have any number of elif statements. And then if we need it, we can have the else. Okay, but the else and the elifs are optional. Notice that the else doesn't have a condition, right? So the else is basically when it's completing the first statement that has a true condition, that's the one that will get executed. That's the code block that will be executed. Everything else gets skipped. So if the condition on the if is true, this code block is executed. And then it skips everything else, even if the condition on the elif is true. Okay? But if none of these conditions is true, it'll finally get to the else, and that's what we'll execute. Okay. So the statement is evaluated as true or false if one of the following is correct. 1, the true Boolean variable is given or calculated using an expression such as an arithmetic comparison. 2, an object which is not considered read empty is passed. Okay? Here are some examples which are considered empty. 1, an empty string. 2, an empty list. 3, the number 0. 4, the false Boolean variable false. Okay? Okay. An example of an if statement. It says x equals 2. If x equals 2, print x equals 2, else print x does not equal 2. Okay, so this is an example of an if statement. All right, of course, x does equal 2. If we turn in x equals 3, what if we take away the x? Okay, so notice that x does not exist, right? So in the case that x doesn't exist, it's treated as a false. Okay. All right. Next is the is operator, okay? So unlike the double equals operator equals, right? The is operator does not match the values of the variables, but the instances themselves. For example, okay, x equals 1, 2, 3, and y equals 1, 2, 3. Okay, prints out, so x is equal to y prints out as true. But if we say x is y, that prints out to false, right? Okay, what do we put? So there's our first one, right? Okay. What do we put? Y equals x. True, true, right? So the values stay the same, right, in this case. Both times the values are the same, but in the second time I actually set y is equal to x. Okay, so these are the types of quirks they don't seem particularly useful when you learn them. A lot of times, however, what happens is you use this stuff in your code and you're not really sure why it is, and it turns out that it's just an arbitrary thing that, was a decision made when the programming language was created. So it's important to understand. Using the not before Boolean expression inverts it. Okay, so print not false or print not false is equal to false prints out false. So we have a double negative here, right? So not false is equal to true. And then we ask, is true equal to false? And that prints out false, right? Okay, and then if we print not false, that's equal to true. Okay, change the variables. Okay, so this is exercise 5. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and read this. So pause the video, read it, and then we'll start back up in just a couple minutes. Okay, so you should have paused the video. You should be finished with exercise 5 by now. Okay, change the variable in the first section so that each statement resolves as true. Okay. So we have number is greater than 15. Okay, and we have if first array. So first array can't be empty. Okay, we also have the length of the first array plus the length of the second array equals to 5. If first array and first array 0 equals 1. Okay. So first array, the first element, right? So we have a couple things talking about the first array. Okay, so that's what we'll do first, right? Okay, so number here, well, let's just do number real quick. So number is only mentioned one time, right? It has to be greater than 15. Let's make it 16. Okay. And you'll notice we only got 1 right here, right? We're trying to get it to print all the way up to 6. Okay, now if first array, so remember that we said first array, if it's empty, comes back as false, right? So it can't be empty. So let's put and I noticed that at first array 0, the first, at position 0, that's the first number, right? The first item in an array. So that's 1. Oops, so first array is 1. And we say that the len of the first array plus the len of the second array is equal to 5. So the len of the second array is 3. So the len of the first array has to be 2. Ooh, look at that. Okay, we got 1, 2. We didn't get 3, though. Len of second array has to equal 2. Okay, so we have to take 1 out of here, but remember, the total has to be the len of 5. So we're going to add that onto first array. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're on our last one. If not second number, print 6. Okay, so in this case, we're basically going to take out, that's the only reference to second number. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and remove it, because remember, it says not second number, so we need this to return false, and then the not would make it true, and then it would print 6. Okay, so by removing it, it means it's empty, which means the is false, and the not of the false would be true, which would make it print. Oh, it didn't work. Interesting. It's possible that because I already ran the code, it's possible that the variable got set by Jupyter Notebook. So let's make it empty. Let's make it an empty string. There we go. Okay, so second number, and we made it an empty string. Okay, let's see if we can make it null. Interesting, there's no nulls. Okay, we'll just make it an empty string. Okay, that works. Let's try 0. Ooh, 0 works. There we go. Okay, that's better. So 0 is also a false value. Okay, so if it's 0, it tests, it's coming back false. It gets turns it into true, which then prints 6. Okay, so that is exercise 5. If you are doing this for your assignment, go ahead and go File, Print Preview. Okay, and you're going to save this as a PDF for upload. If you're doing this on your own, good luck. You might want to play around a little bit more with the conditionals. Good luck.